Hey everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to our STEM internships and REUs presentation. This is part of Welcome Week activities at Cape Cod Community College. And we are excited to have so many participants today, not only from 4Cs, but from across the state. Welcome. We have a fantastic lineup of presenters today here to speak with you about their programs and about ways to help, ways that they can help you to find internships and REUs and ways to be successful in those applications. My name is Bridget Berger. I'm the director of STEM Starter Academy at Cape Cod Community College. And I'm going to go over a few opportunities that we host on our website. I'm going to show you what that is and where and how to find it. And then I'm going to introduce our speakers for today. We have Anne-Marie Julian, who is the 4C's Career Development Counselor, to speak with you. We have Professor Greta Saris, who is here to talk about research opportunities at WHOI. We have Mike Mazzotta, who is here to talk about a summer internship at WHOI, and we have Rue St. Pierre, who is here to tell you all about STEAM ID, a platform where you can find many more internships. And so as we go along, you may have questions. If you have questions, can you please put them in the chat? You can either put them in the chat and make them visible to everyone, or you can send them to me individually. And I will be taking notes on those questions. And at the end, we will have time for questions and answers at the end. At the very end, I want to tell you about some more opportunities that we are hosting, more events that we are having. Okay, next slide. So STEM Starter Academy is at each of the 15 Massachusetts community colleges, and we welcome students to join us. We offer case management, we offer events, we offer coaching. We have lots of resources to help you in your career pathway and your education pathway. This is my contact information. If you'd like to get involved at 4Cs, please reach out. Okay, next slide. We also have a STEM jobs and internships board, and this is the link to the website. On my screen, this is looking very fuzzy, but if you go to the website, it's not fuzzy at all. We have lots of very amazing opportunities listed. So I encourage you to check that often because we are uploading jobs and internships on a regular basis. Okay, so that's capecodSTEMnetwork.org/work/ and you'll find a whole series of newly added jobs and internships. Okay, next slide. And two of them that I want to highlight are really super exciting. This is called the Rebels Summer Leadership Academy. And this is hosted out of UMass Amherst. It's a 20-hour-a-week online program, and it's an accelerator for you as you plan your journey to thrive in tech and engineering sectors. Over this 6-week period, students learn how to identify your strengths, learn how to sharpen your personal story. You learn solutions to limit the impact from stereotype threats such as microaggressions and isolation. It's a really wonderful and well thought out program for students who are looking for connections and skills to thrive in STEM. So I encourage you, if you are a student of color, if you are a BIPOC student, please apply to this. It's free. You actually get, I believe with this one, there's a small stipend, but there's more information here at rebelsleadershipacademy.com. Please check that out. And next slide, please. And if you are interested in mental health research at Harvard Medical School, McLean Hospital has an amazing summer internship, a research program for Black, Indigenous, and underrepresented people of color interested in this field. All of the links are here, and this is a fantastic program. I highly recommend if you are interested to apply, it comes with a $6,000 stipend. It's a 10-week program. The application deadline is March 15th. So again, please click on these links to learn more about it. And I'd be happy to help answer any questions about that as well. Okay, next slide. The last thing I want to tell you about is that at each of the 4-year state campuses, STEM Starter Academy has a summer transfer academy. It's called STEM Summer Transfer Bridge. And you can apply starting in February. The program that we have developed is with Bridgewater State, and it gets you free coursework, it gets you a stipend, and it gets you connections with students and faculty and staff at each of the state schools. So if you are transferring, if you're in a community college and you are transferring in STEM to one of the state schools, one of the UMass schools or Fitchburg or Bridgewater, or any of the state schools, there is a pathway that is laid out that can really benefit you. So definitely apply to that. Okay, and next slide. And next I would like to introduce Anne-Marie Julian.
Hi, everyone. As Bridget said, I am the Career Development Counselor at Cape Cod Community College. And I am mainly handle internships, and I help students prepare for them with resume writing, cover letter writing, interviewing skills. I can help you through the entire process, the paperwork, and all of that. Most of you probably know internships, basically a form of experiential learning, taking what you learn in the classroom and applying that out in the field, okay? Developing skills in a professional setting. All right, next slide, please. So benefits to students. You will get that valuable real world experience in your desired career field, hands-on skills development. You'll build a network of, contacts for yourself. It's a resume builder, as you know now, going through college, and it's never too early to start an internship. So, definitely think about that. And a lot of times internships can turn into jobs. They will, if they like you, if you like them, it may be a win-win for both organizations. And you'll also earn academic credit for your program, okay, in most instances. Next slide. So internships, just a sampling of some of these STEM internships that we've done in the past: the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, Marine Biological Laboratories, Cape Cod National Seashore, Convention Data Services, Cape Cod Healthcare in IT, Heritage Museum and Gardens, Hydroid. And that's just a sampling, but coming up this summer, there's a presentation at one of my sister colleges, Mass Bay Community College, that I can connect you with on opportunities at Math Life Sciences and Mass Clean Energy for the summer. So that is Wednesday, February 10th. Contact me and I can connect you with that forum. They'll be offering many opportunities in those organizations for this coming summer. Next slide. So just my contact information. Again, if you are a 4C student, you want to reach out to me if you're thinking about an internship. It's never too early. It's better early than late getting into an internship. Right now they are posting for summer. So you want to start that process as soon as you can. And I can basically, you just make an appointment with me. You can email me at ajulian@capecod.edu. And I can help you with every step of the process. And if you have any questions for me, you can certainly plop those in the chat. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Okay, and so next we have Professor Greta Saris, and she has an internship at HUI that has been ongoing for 5 years, I believe. And we have partnered with her through STEM Starter Academy to help promote this internship. And I'm very excited for her to present to you all about this internship at WHOI and how to apply. And so Greta, go ahead and take it away.
All right. So do you have a slide for me? My first slide. All right, here we go. So I'm Greta Saris, and I'm the coordinator of the program, and I work with Julie Huber. She is the PI of the program, and Julie is actually online right now. She's in the meeting here. So if there are any questions, either of us will be able to take those questions at the end. So I want to present to you a research opportunity that we host down at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. It's right now it's a summer internship. We've, like Bridget said, we've been running it since 2015, and we've had a total of 15 students come through the program. For now, it's been a summer program, and we are looking to expand it into a semester-wide program. But of course, COVID has put a damper on most of the programs, so we'll keep that in mind. I'm going to be showing you some pictures now from the program, and pay attention, or just these pictures are showing a summer at WHOI. We'll be probably doing mostly virtual, hoping to get some in the lab. So I want to introduce in the next slide where the internship is actually at. It's at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, and I don't know how many of you students have been at Woods Hole. It's on Cape Cod. We find that many of our Cape Cod interns have not made it to Woods Hole yet. But there we have this large oceanographic institution. The main goal, the focus of the whole institution, there are about 1,000 employees, is to study the ocean, to learn more about the ocean, the life there, and also to educate people about work. So ocean, it's more than 70% of the planet. So it's a big, expansive area that we need to learn a lot about. We still don't know very much about it. And we also want to, just educate people. So if you educate everyone about the ocean. So if you move on to the next slide. These are a list of the goals that we have with our internship. Besides sharing our enthusiasm for the ocean and for life there, we want to provide opportunities for interns, for community college students actually, who are interested in STEM, to come and learn what are the possibilities for work in the STEM field, what do other scientists do when they're there, what educations can the range of educations that you can take within the STEM that can then bring you to a place like WHOI. And also we want to, you can see there, we want to help students transition. You're interested in the STEM field. We want to help you move along to that 4-year institution, potentially beyond that. And then we also would like to recruit many of you. You're the future, you're the resources of the next step in the ocean research. So we want to make sure that we get you excited about the work and that we help you along and find your home in STEM. All right, next slide. So here are more details about the internship, how we're envisioning it this summer, 8 to 10 weeks. So we're looking at the summer. We don't know about the fall yet. Again, because of the COVID situation, and we're under the restriction of what WHOI as an institution decides to do as far as people coming on campus. But it's a paid internship. It's non-residential. Of course, it will be this year, but usually it is as well. And while you're there, you do work in the lab or do events, approximately 40 hours a week. What we also want to do is mentor you and help you, move and see your future in the STEM. And again, we're working in Julie Huber's lab. She runs a microbial biochemistry lab at the Oceanographic Institute. And I'm the coordinator of the program. All right. So if you want to move to the next slide, please. So what do we do in the Huber lab? Basically, we're studying the microbial life at hydrothermal vents. So if you're looking at the slide, on the left side, you see the slide where you have rocks plus water plus flow equals energy and life. So you have this water that's running under the sea floor, and as it's percolating up through the rocks in the sea floor, either through seeps or through hydrothermal vents, they release a lot of energy that then microbes actually can take advantage of. And in that process, this energy is harvested by the microbes, and they then form the basic part of the food chain. And the food chain then builds up to include these worms and the shrimp and a lot of life. The microbes that are the basis, or they're starting all of this life. You can see them in the evolutionary tree here on the right-hand side. You have a diverse number of both bacteria and archaea or prokaryotes in our earth. And in the very beginning, the life that we see on the left side that we visually can see belong to the eukarya, and that's just a small fraction of the life. In order to get to this deep ocean, deep ocean and collect samples, we have to use these remote vehicles. And that's something that members of the lab are part of. And then on the right bottom side, you can see the main groups of organisms that we are interested. We have the viruses, we have prokaryotes, archaea and bacteria, and we also have some protozoans, which are single cell eukaryotes. All right, so you want to move on to the next slide. Being part of the lab, and these are activities that we do in the lab, but that also will be adapted to a virtual setting. So making media and solutions so we can, culture these organisms. We want to look at them under microscopes and we grow them. But when we have these microbes ready, we study them, we extract their DNA and the information in the DNA. We try to understand where do they fit in that tree of life? What reactions are they capable of doing in their environment? And we are looking, for those of you who are thinking about summer virtual, these are analyses that are being done, through a computer all the time. So we will do all of this exciting work, even in a virtual setting. All right, the next slide, please. Being part of a lab group, that's what we want to bring people there. Learn, what is a scientist? Meet other scientists. What type of career can we offer within the field of sciences? So we want you to feel part of a group, both be a cohort of interns that work together, that interact with other members in the Huber lab, and that interact with other potential interns at the institution and get to meet other scientists who are there. So we try to, we attend lab meetings, we try to go to seminars, and they're being held virtual now. We get, we talk about the seminars, the content of them, how to present the data, and you get a chance to present data yourself to a group of other students or to the lab members. Yes. So, and the big thing I also want to say, we try to build a network of interns. So I've mentioned we have 15 interns that have gone through the program, and we keep in touch. So the current interns always have a chance to interact with future interns. So we have a big cohort that we're building on. Next slide. Right now, Julian and I are putting the final touches on the application. The application will be found online. And this is just a temporary link. We'll send out the correct link to Bridget so you can post that. In addition to this online application, you'll be submitting a college transcript. It can be an unofficial one that's sufficient, as well as 2 letters of recommendation. And they should be sent to me. So in order to qualify for this internship, we want you not necessarily to have been in a research lab. We want you to be excited about doing science. You want to learn about what research is, what research is all about. And that you are excited about STEM and you are planning a future, continuing your STEM studies. We would like to see that the interns have actually done some lab work at the college level. I realize that might be different this year. You're not going to have been inside the lab, but then and in addition, you have to be a US citizen or permanent resident. That's a limit or that's a limit of our funding agencies. So applications, we're hoping to, we haven't set a hard deadline, but we're thinking end of March for the application deadline. And then by the end of April, we will have finished interviews and also have decided on candidates. Starting then, May, we're hoping to make sure or determine whether it's going to be an online, virtual, or a combination of virtual and on campus. Yes.
Thank you, Greta. Are there any more slides?
No, well, end slide. And I want to finish with end slide because that's so awesome. This is actually, you can see, this is Alvin, one of the submersible vehicles that go down and take samples for us. But that is one of our first interns who is actually now training to be a pilot of Alvin, and he's diving into the water. So this is where this internship actually can take you if you're really excited about ocean research.
Thank you so much, Greta. It is an amazing opportunity. I highly encourage you to apply if you are interested. We will be sending out this slide deck to everyone. So you will get a copy of this with all of the information in it. Please take advantage, okay? Next up is Mike. Mike is also from Hui, and he has a brand new summer internship experience that he is creating, and I'm helping him to shape that and promote that. I'm really excited about this. Mike, can you tell us more about turtles?
Sure, thank you, Bridget. Can you all hear me okay? Great. And I have a few slides to facilitate this. Great. Welcome to you all. And so as Bridget mentioned, I'd like to talk to you today about a new internship program that we're starting this summer. And we're really excited to announce it. So I'm first going to introduce myself because we'll be working together in this program and talk briefly about the program itself. And then I'll tell you a little bit about Woods Hole and the scientific community and tell you about the focus of the research in the program. So if you could advance to the next slide, please. Great. So my name is Mike Mazzotta. I am many things, but a scientist being one of them. And I'm a scientist at Woods Hole Oceanographic, if you haven't noticed. So this is me holding a solution of biodiesel that we derived from switchgrass, and we're analyzing it for purity. I'm a big brother in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, and I'm here with my friend and little brother Ethan. He's 10 years old and a really awesome kid. We did a little experiment ourselves mixing Mentos and Coke this weekend, and that was pretty awesome. If you haven't had the chance to do that, I would highly recommend that experiment. I am a dog dad. This is my beagle Baxter, who's posing for the LGBTQ Pride Month dog calendar that we have at our institution. He's really like one of the best companions I could have asked for, and obviously really photogenic. And I'm also an adventurer. So this is a photo of me, and we're setting sail off the coast of Cape Verde into the tropical North Atlantic. I was able to go on my first research cruise back in 2018 when this photo was taken and get my experience in field research. It's pretty amazing to go out to sea and do science, and I highly recommend it. I'm also gay and an ally to anyone who's struggling here with their own self-identity, their future. I want to say that it gets better, and there are friends along the way like myself to hold out a hand and offer and help. So as a gay scientist, I've been motivated by the need for greater LGBTQ plus representation within the sciences beyond just normative perspectives that are pervasive, so that we can diversify and prosper. And so I'm here to tell you about an opportunity at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, or WHOI for short, as I'll call it. And as I mentioned, I'm a researcher at WHOI, and so we'd like to welcome you to the community of Woods Hole. Next slide, please. So as you think about all the exciting opportunities here before you this week, I want you to consider a possibility. Just imagine yourself working with a group of your peers to solve the world's problems, addressing major challenges to our planet that face generations to come. If you're anything like me, you're constantly seeing the challenges that our planet faces in the wake of pollution and abuse. We are the generation that's going to have to clean up these messes, essentially. I'm here to tell you that there's an opportunity to make a big difference, and it's waiting for you. We need diverse, talented, young scientists like yourself. No matter who you are and no matter what your background is or your interests, I want you to know that this internship experience is for you. And this is the program that I'm here to announce today, which is called Turtles, Talented Undergraduate Researchers Taking Leadership Through Experiential Science. Turtles is about working together in a small group with a small group of individuals, experiencing the camaraderie of teamwork and environmental science. It's also about addressing some of the planet's greatest challenges while providing the opportunity to obtain lab research skills. You'll take leadership in understanding these problems in environmental science through a variety of lenses, both from the scientific and the policy standpoint. And we'll support you while you work with us through the form of a participation stipend available to all participants. And as a researcher at WHOI, you'll have the opportunity to meet environmental scientists that are tackling some of these amazing challenges. So I want to tell you a little bit about the program and the great adventure that awaits with Turtles. Next slide, please. And so here are some of the details. So we have a participation stipend that we'll provide you with. Any student that participates in the program will be awarded that. You must be able to travel to Woods Hole at least once a month from July to December. And I know that that's sort of a broad range of time, but we're trying to plan accordingly from the moving target that is COVID. So the specific details of when we can get you to campus are yet to be fully determined, but we ask that you just block out that time period. So you must be enthusiastic and interested in science. We're not requiring that you have any sort of lab expertise at this point to come into the program. And you have to fill out the application, and the application is here with the link, and we'll also drop that in the chat as well. Next slide, please. So I've been mentioning Woods Hole a lot, and I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Woods Hole. Well, first off, where is it? It's located on this point that circled in red. The community is pretty special, and it's composed of several different scientific institutions that study the environment in an effort to promote a better future for our planet and its inhabitants through knowledge. We all work together in a collective effort to better our planet. Next slide, please. So I'd like to take you on a virtual tour of these institutions and what they do, briefly. Just because this program is based out of WHOI, I want you to imagine these institutions in the context of your own interest and picture yourself within. We want to welcome you to our community with open arms and help support your future, whichever the institutions you might see yourself. We hope that this program will be a feeder into whatever future you envision yourself in. Next slide, please. So Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution is our first stop on the tour of Woods Hole. And at WHOI, we're venturing to the furthest reaches of Earth, bringing back discoveries that have saved lives, transforming our planet, our understanding of the planet that we live on. We focus on the fundamental chemical, and physical workings of the oceans that regulates Earth's climate. Great feats of engineering have enabled us to dive to the bottom of the ocean in submersible devices. And we have two amazing research vessels, the Neil Armstrong and the Atlantis. We've traveled the planet and made contributions from the discovery of the wreckage of the Titanic to monitoring the spread of nuclear radiation through the power plant disaster, Fukushima. We're adventurers by heart, yearning to understand the pulse of the ocean and plunge into the unknown. Next slide, please. The next institution on our tour is the Sea Education Association, or SEA. It's focused on educating students on the human impacts of the environment. Sea Semester is a study abroad program. The program combines classroom study on the SEA campus in Woods Hole with a sailing research expedition where you set sail in either the Atlantic, Pacific, or the Caribbean. SEA allows you to take what you've learned in the classroom and test against your observations in the field, sailing as scientists and crew aboard one of the SEA's research vessels. And here's one just for example. This is the Robert C. Seaman. So you can imagine yourself cruising along on that ship and learning oceanography. In this program, we'll be actively collaborating with scientists at SEA who are working on environmental microplastics. Next slide, please. Next up on our tour is the National Marine Fisheries Services, which is a part of the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA. The scientists here are interested in fisheries resources, ecosystem monitoring, and even the socioeconomics of fisheries. They're an interdisciplinary bunch interested in everything from big organisms like that monster that's pictured there to the cultural effects of fisheries even. The NOAA Fisheries Lab houses the Woods Hole Science Aquarium, which is a really great place to visit and has a number of different marine organism specimens. And the neighboring NOAA is the Marine Biological Laboratory. And this is an amazing hub of research where students and scientists come together for state-of-the-art facilities to focus on many questions revolving around oceans and marine life. These researchers are studying novel marine organisms, and the research that comes out of this facility touches a diverse number of fields, including neuroscience, regenerative biology, and even genomics. The MBL is focused on understanding ecosystems and global change at a variety of scales. Next slide, please. And the last three facilities I'll share with you on this tour include the U.S. Geologic Survey, the Woodwell Climate Center, and Woods Hole Sea Grant. These institutions focus on the science of climate change through geology, chemistry, and physics in a number of diverse environments, from the coastal marshes of Cape Cod to a melting permafrost in the Arctic. And next slide, please. So perhaps you've imagined yourself at one of these institutions, whether it's getting into one of those robotic vehicles and diving to the seafloor or sailing through the Atlantic at SEA. So opportunity really awaits you today. And I want you to imagine that this is you getting to be you in the Woods Hole scientific community and join the fight to help understand our environment better. Our planet is in critical need of assistance from enthusiastic young minds like yourself. And we need to tackle these huge unknowns like plastics in the environment head on. And so we need students of diverse backgrounds to build a better future. As our director said, the oceans are in trouble, climate is changing rapidly, and the world is in need of solutions. And so our turtles, this program will be engaged in several month-long research project facilitated by me. And together we'll tackle questions in plastic pollution that can help policymakers into the future, such as understanding the fate of these plastic particles, the lifetime in the environment, and the unique challenges that they pose. We'll study these plastics from the sources themselves through field sampling efforts. And then we'll study these materials through a variety of chemical and biological techniques, how they're interacting with the ocean and the life around it. We'll dive down within these plastics figuratively and study the organisms inhabiting these materials. Ultimately, we'll track how these transformations change the fate of the plastics, and we'll track the lifetimes of these materials. Next slide, please. Which is a critical component of taking leadership, and will give you the tools to think about these problems from both a scientific as well as a policy standpoint. And throughout the process, we'll be connecting you with scientists and policymakers at WHOI, setting you up for a future of environmental advocacy through either lens. Woods Hole looks to enthusiastic scientists like yourself to get involved with us, and we welcome you to start your scientific adventure. So the mentorship of WHOI scientists will take you into the future, and as you build skills in scientific literacy to help impact the world, we'll be with you there every step of the way. These friends you make, your fellow turtles, will likely be your colleagues, and we'll forge our friendship together. So next slide, please. So I hope I've given you a snapshot of what the Turtles program looks like. We are interested in broadening the diversity of LGBTQ+ individuals within our community, but please don't let that stop you from applying. And as I've also mentioned, this does not require any sort of scientific training beforehand. If you're enthusiastic about science and this seems like an appealing, interesting project that you want to join us on, please consider applying. So if you follow the link to apply, we are taking applications until about mid-March, and we'll be starting to select participants sometime in April. So please join us today. Please join the Turtles, because we need really bright, talented, and diverse young scientists like yourself in efforts to better the planet. So thank you, Bridget, Sam, and Asher, and the STEM Starter Academy and 4Cs for having me today. And then WHOI, Sea Grant, and SEA for supporting the project. And happy to take any questions at the end of the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike. So everyone on the call, you may see that we have, Julie has been kind enough to add the 2 application links. They're right there in the chat. Samantha has also added the slide deck. So you have those applications there, both in the slide deck and right in the chat. And, you know, I'd like to emphasize what an amazing these 2 opportunities are just both amazing opportunities to tie in with WHOI and to really change the trajectory of your scientific future, that you will meet so many amazing people to help you along the way. And because you are on this call, you know, you are eligible to apply, because these presenters have specifically made it clear that they are looking for community college students to become a part of these programs. So if you are interested, do not be shy. Reach out to me, reach out to Anne-Marie. We are here to help you get your applications in for both of these programs. And I am also excited to introduce Rue, who is going to tell you more about even more internships and REUs that his company, his organization is dedicated to sharing with you. So with that, Rue, take it away.
Definitely. I am currently sharing my screen, and can I get a sort of a thumbs up whether you can see my screen or not?
Yes, we see your
Perfect.
desktop. Yep.
Do you see, oh, just the desktop? Do you see the
Now
web
we
browser?
see just, yes, now we see Albert Einstein on Steam ID.
All right, wonderful. All right, so by way of introduction, everyone, my name is Rudolph Santier. Everyone calls me Rue, so please feel free to call me Rue as well. I was born and raised in Haiti. I came here when I was 16, did my last year of high school here in Boston, and then following high school, I went to UMass Boston, where I majored in chemistry. During my time at UMass Boston, I actually had a really hard time finding internships. But luckily toward the end, I did end up interning at the Dana-Farber Harvard Cancer Center in a program called the CURE program, where I did cancer research. Long story short, that internship introduced me to folks that hired me after I graduated from UMass Boston. And I got lucky and worked in a lab that was fairly successful. And during my time there, I applied to graduate school. And now I'm currently a doctoral candidate in the chemical biology program at Harvard. This is just to say, this is not a path that was sort of like, planned. This is one internship sort of like, introduced me to one person that sort of like, and it snowballed into amazing opportunities in my lifetime. Just to reinforce what everyone else, sort of like I said earlier, please apply to however many possible entries you can apply for in such a way you never know who you're going to encounter, who you're going to network with that will, sort of, pave a path forward for you. Now, one of the things, this entire effort, STEAMIZ, we launched this with my co-founder, Rose St. Pierre, who is not my sister, but my wife, in case you guys are wondering. We launched this as a result of the pandemic. So when the shutdown took place, we realized that we had a database of internships in our hands, as well as scholarships and fellowships. Every single year, people would invite us in Boston, especially in the public high school, so we could talk about our path and how to apply to internships and scholarships sort of things. And we sort of amassed this massive sort of like list of stuff. And we realized, this list is in our hands. It's not doing anything. We might as well just transform it into a tool or a platform that is readily accessible to kids, in town. And before you know it, it's leaked out, and it's folks all across the country are currently using this. Now, what is STEAMIZ? STEAMIZ is a platform that aggregates academic STEAM resources. And by academic STEAM resources, we mean internships across the entire country, as well as the territories, scholarships, as well as fellowships. All the internships are mostly for high school and college students. The scholarships as well are for high school and college students, and the fellowships are mostly for graduate students. So if you're doing a PhD, there are certain sort of like, they behave more or less like scholarships, but what they do is they provide a stipend for either your work or the research that you're doing at that time. Now we take that data, we put it on the platform, and we partition the internships by state, by schools, by disciplines. So if you're a chemistry major, for instance, so you want to come here, and once you click here, there are a number of opportunities all across the country that you could potentially apply for. We're sourcing the data from the CDC, the NIH, right? All the major powerhouse and hospitals across the country that are sort of like, hosting these sort of like, summer programs. All of them are oftentimes paid opportunities, and the disproportionate majority also will offer you housing, and they'll offer you a travel cost reimbursement. So you'll pay yourself to get there, and once you get there, they'll give you the money back. So it's a win-win-win situation where there's no money out of your pocket. You apply for free, you pay out of pocket to get there, but once you get there, they give you the money back. So and they'll pay for your housing while you're there, providing you're not doing it within the state of Massachusetts or you're not doing it close to your house. So that's one thing. So there are a number of subjects. I was an international student for a very long time. Actually became a citizen last week. So that tells you, I've been in the country since before. So I can relate to whomever do not have papers. I know someone else earlier mentioned the fact that many of those programs, the summer internships, are funded by the government, and it comes with a stipulation that you have to have a green card or be a U.S. citizen. However, you'll find certain programs that will have private money, where every year they'll be able to take 2 or 3 students that do not have a green card, for instance. So that applied to me when I was at UMass Boston. So here we just have a number of them that we found across the country that necessarily doesn't ask for a green card. So you might as well find those, and also email the program coordinators just to make sure that that you're able to apply. Now, what I'm gonna do in honor of my wife, Rose St. Pierre, who's like a nurse, I'm gonna demonstrate the nursing healthcare card, which has a ton of opportunities for nursing students, as well as healthcare students all together. So one of the things that I like with this program from the NIH is they provide you a ton of information. So we can take that information and further break it down into those like small digestible bites in such a way you can figure out whether this is a program you want to apply for. Like just by looking at it, oh, you know what, this is for me, I'm gonna apply for it. Now me personally, I would apply for this because it's too far for me, 385 miles. Like I have a wife and a child, so like that's not happening. I'm staying here in Boston. But other than that, if reading all that text is not something that you would trying to do, we also have we can hold the video of the program, providing the program itself has a video. So it works just like you do on YouTube, and we can just place it here, and you can look at it and make a decision whether this program applies to you. Once you look at the program and you are happy with what you see, and this is something that you want to do, what you could potentially do on the platform as well is you can save the program, and once you save it, send it over to your profile account, which I'm going to show you in a minute. So all your behavior, everything you do on the app is sort of like pulled over into your profile to help us recommend things to you. So if you are in this generation, we are accustomed to say Netflix, YouTube, Spotify, and all these like entities recommending entertainment to us. What we want to do is flip the script and start recommending academic resources to students. And we think, with that model, we will be able to, because this is a set of tools that you folks are used to. So we're just using the same sort of like, set of like algorithms to do the same thing for academic resources. All right. So apart from the internships that which I've just shown you, again, we have over 1,000 opportunities on there, across the entire country, and every day we're putting more. Scholarships as well are critical, especially if you're in college or you're about to transition from high school to college. It's expensive to go to college. I don't need to tell you, you're probably already aware of this. And turns out there's money out there, and folks aren't applying enough. So what we encourage folks to do is there's a whole list of scholarships that will, providing you are putting your best foot forward when you're applying, they will pay for your schooling, all the way through. Now, we are on the tail end of scholarship season. Scholarship season tends to be in October, November, but you are, dab in the middle of internship season. So it peaks around February and sort of like, dies down around the end of March. Just so you're aware. And also, if you are a doctoral student, a PhD or master's, there are a number of fellowships here as well, all being sourced, from the entire country, that can provide money either for study here or sometimes study abroad outside of the country. Apart from this, one of the things that I did not mention, say you find a program that you really like. For instance, this program, the deadline is in 10 days. And I'll save it straight to you, and you want to apply, you can simply click on the portal to the internship, and it will send you over to where to apply. So we don't really host the applications, but this is what we're currently working on. We're working on partnering with as many institutions as possible, so we can start centralizing the application themselves as well. And that work will take a year or two until we kind of have mass appeal. Now, the last piece that I mentioned earlier was if you come on the platform, you log in, you have access to everything. But however, if you take it one step further and you make a profile account, we can start, recommending stuff to you. And this is what I meant earlier by a sort of like a static, a very basic AI sort of like, machine learning algorithm that we're building on the back end, which what it does is it monitors your behavior on the app and starts recommending the things that you are either spending a lot of time on or that we sort of can infer that you like. And also, when you make a profile, you will tell us what your interests are. And based on that as well, we can recommend things to you. We can also recommend things to you with by location. So what we do, just baseline level, we tell you everything that's 100 miles away from you, which is broad enough in such a way that you can find everything. So I currently live in Brockton. So the closest things to me right now is an internship at UMass Boston, which makes sense. And then as you move further down, right, it ventures out, it goes to Harvard, and what you'll see toward the end, right, it's gonna go out of state, it's gonna go to Rhode Island, Brown University, because that's within that 100-mile radius. Now, heading back to your profile account, everything that I do on the app, especially if I save something, is saved it here for me so I can recover it later. And the reason we do this is because once we have that information, what we can start doing is say, there's an internship two weeks from now, we can send you a reminder and say, hey, guess what? There's an internship your deadline's coming up. Did you get a letter of recommendation? That's critical, right? Because you don't want to ask for a letter of recommendation the day prior to your stuff is due. The folks at Turtle will be like, come on, get it together. So we do these sort of like baseline level reminders. We can automate all that system, so it's pretty easy for us to do. Once you do it once, it's pretty fairly easy. So here I've saved 32 internships, 6 scholarships, and 8 fellowships, all of which I can recover back on the platform right here. So that way I don't forget to apply as a reminder. Now, if you make a profile, we actually give you, the user, any user, the ability to say post these opportunities as well. Because Rose and I, we know for sure that we won't know of every single academic resources across the country. It will require, that we get some input from the users. If you are living somewhere, in the middle of the country that we're not familiar with, and there's something that's close to you and that you're aware of, what we do, we encourage people to come here on board and post, the opportunity of interest. And then Rose and I will take it on the back end, review it, and list it for everyone else to see. So currently, that's sort of like how that works. We've also made some effort in sort of like showing we have a set of tips, all of which were addressed today. And I'm not gonna go over those set of things, but what we like to tell folks before they apply is that you can plan your success in applying to these academic resources. And that entails that super early on, like you're reviewing every single one of these opportunities to make sure that you're eligible for them. Because if you're not, it's a baseline level filter. I currently sit on the board of a summer research program, and I get to review applications. I also get to interview students. The worst thing you can do for yourself is put an application for which you're not eligible for. That's easy for us to do. You can just put it aside. So you could be spending that time applying for something you're eligible for. That's super critical. Your resume, your letters of recommendation, and your personal statement, please use your network. And that's your professors, that's your parents, that's your brother, sister, whomever that you have in your general, especially when you're writing, your resume and your personal statement. You can, sort of rely on these folks to help you craft the best possible version, of that first draft. And you can iterate and make that draft even better over time. And apart from this, ask questions. As you're applying, if there's a question on the application that you're not aware, that you simply just not understand, simply reach out, send an email, and folks will gladly answer your email to address these questions. And and also folks can email us. We're on LinkedIn. We're please reach out if you have any questions. We're happy to help. But we always tend to encourage people to say, ask questions of the say program coordinators, because they know their programs best. They're able to answer your questions. And with that, I think that more or less covers it all. The one little piece that I think we could technically mention is that today we had an article that sort of was published on AdGene, talking about sort of a set of tips to help you secure these internships. You've heard of these before, we've talked about them here. So just make sure that that you're reading these like small blog, because they help. And we also have an event that's coming up on this coming Saturday, talking about these very same things we talk about here. So my thing is, if you've heard this, you do not need to participate in this, but you probably know a friend or family member that could take advantage of this, this event. So it's literally, an event like this with a panel, and we're talking about, how to put your best foot forward. If you follow us on Facebook or LinkedIn, you'll find that information. We're pretty easy to find. It's at MyCMID everywhere. So on Twitter, LinkedIn, on Facebook as well. So with that, I'm gonna stop. And if you guys have any questions, we're happy to take them toward the end. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen.
Rue, thank you so much. So I want to encourage everyone to put your questions in the chat. And while you guys are doing that, Rue, I've got a question. So while you have your screens up, is there a way specifically to search for community college students and to filter out the opportunities that are available? Can you walk us through how to do that while you've got your screen share there?
Sure. Let me share my screen again, but that's actually fairly easy. There is a, hold on, let me share my screen again.
Okay, and while you're doing that, everybody, I put the blog that Rue just mentioned. It is, the link to it is right there in the chat.
All right, so say you're here on sorted by state. So that gives you everything across the entire country. So what you could do is just literally write community college here. And as you're typing, it starts filtering everything. So say you want everything that's in the state of Massachusetts. So you just select that as a filter.
Okay.
And I'm actually glad you asked this question, Bridget, because Mass Life Science Center is one of the major providers of summer internships across the state. And they welcome high school and college students from every single school. So what I would do is they do their application on a rolling basis. Please apply it today. The first step is literally a statement of intent. It's you go and you put your name and your address and you say I'm interested, I believe, and then follow that application. It's they take I think somewhere between 500 to 600 students per year. That's insane. Like, I mean, the majority of the summer search program will take 5 to 10. And so apply. And Station One is a new one that sort of started last year in a state. But apart from the fact that the numbers in the state like seem small here, but don't just limit yourself to the state, right? Just look at the entire country and see what you can apply for. If you have any questions, email. Now, the other thing I'm gonna say is, let's just say you find something, it doesn't explicitly say this is for a community college students. That does not mean that you're not eligible. You are a college student, no matter what. I had classmates at UMass Boston that came from Bunker Hill and went to Harvard Medical School. And I can't tell you how many times that happens. That happens so often. But what ends up happening is, while you are within your community college system, you may not be aware of this is happening all the time. But this is a common occurrence. So apply for everything, even if it doesn't not necessarily says community college. But do find a community college, apply to them first. So yeah, because that's the eligibility piece again. It makes it, if they're already accepting students only for community college, I mean, they have more spot for you.
Great. Thank you.
Of course.
For clarifying that, Rue. I think that's great advice. Apply today to that Mass Life Sciences, and you are a college student. So I have a question from a high school student. So this says, which any of these internships are open to dual enrollment students who are still in high school? So we at 4Cs have quite a few dual enrollment students who are taking college courses, but if they are still technically a high school student as well as being a college student, would they just do that same search where they would search for high school students? Or
great question. We have a card for high school where we've tagged every program that are explicitly accepting high school students. And it's across the entire country as well. Fortunately, our state has a number of them as well. So from MIT, Harvard, the Broad has an amazing program, but the deadline has passed already. So be careful. So I earlier I said that I do sit on a board of a program that does this over that hosts a summer research program at the Farber, and it's a CURE program. So it's this program. It's an amazing program. That's the one I did when I was in college, and I would advise everyone to apply to it. It will accept. They do have a component where you do accept community college students as well, and they also have, say you're toward the end, you're about to graduate, and you're worrying about you don't have something to do. They also have a post-bac program, which what I would do is most likely reach out to them because they don't advertise it all that well that every year. So and that's another sort of piece of advice that I would give you. Sometimes you find something and you could email, and chances are they have something else. Now, one thing that applies to, because this is an odd year with the pandemic, there are programs that still runs despite of the pandemic, and we also highlight those as well, where they're under the virtual programming card. So all these programs, providing the deadlines are not passed, will run. And part of the reason why is because they tend to be a computational sciences program, which they don't need you to be physically there for you to do the work on your computer. But there are programs that are still that are lab centric. So what they've done, and this is what the CURE program actually did run this past year. So they did not do their lab component, but what they did is a number of scientific exercise over say reading a paper, writing sort of an abstract, and they did a lot of that sort of that work. And I would say you never know. There are a number of them across the country that are still running despite the COVID-19 pandemic. So be mindful of that as well, because a number of folks are still applying. And the last thing that I would say on this is the deadlines are, you've missed a month worth of deadline in January, right? The second most popular month after January is February. And if you don't apply this month, then you are sort of losing ground, and it becomes harder because in March, there are a number in March, but not as many as there are in February.
Thank you, Rue. I have two more questions for you, and they both involve scholarships. So there's a question in the chat asking if you can explain and simplify from your perspective the process of applying for scholarships. In the chat, someone has mentioned, it just seems too long. It's too complicated. It's difficult, too much paperwork. So can you kind of boil it down into a nutshell so that the students feel a little more comfortable about applying and
Yeah.
for a scholarship? And then on February 6th, another student is asking about the event that you mentioned about scholarships.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll take the event first. On February 6th, we're holding an event that's going to be just like this. It's a number of folks talking about how to apply for academic resources broadly. And the reason we're doing this is because an internship, a scholarship, and a fellowship, they're all the same thing. Like they do one thing in common. They provide you money in exchange for something. The internship will provide you money in exchange for your time learning, which is like incredible because you are being paid to learn. The scholarship will provide you, a stipend, which is a reward or an award for your, academic prowess, if you will. You do well in school, and folks want to reward you, but the problem is there are a set number of slots, so they have to make it at a competition. You have to put your best foot forward. And the way you do this is through the paperwork. Unfortunately, some are long, some are easier than the others. But if you are doing it in concert with someone else, meaning a professional, a professor, a mentor, a friend that you trust, right? Someone that can give you a little bit of guidance, it's not that hard because the components are technically, the demographic stuff, my name, where you're from, and that kind of stuff. And then the heart of the application oftentimes is the personal statement, right? This is where you get to shine. This is where you get to tell the reviewer why me, right? What have I done in my short sort of period of time on Earth? Because oftentimes you're in your 20s when you're applying, or somewhere between your 18 and 25. You get to convince folks, and this is you using your own words, and that you're worth it, and that you have a future within the track or the career that you are choosing. Now, in order to support those statements, what do? You ask for letters of recommendation. Now, you talk to your recommenders, and oftentimes what I tell people to do is you write a draft of your personal statement and you give it to the folks that are going to write your letters of recommendation. That way they get to know what you're writing about, so they can reiterate that fact or those facts in their personal statements, right? And it supports the statements that you're making. So that's very important. That's very key. And that more or less concludes. I mean, they will ask you certain scholarship will ask you different questions, but one thing that I tell folks is there's a lot of money on the line for these things. I mean, we were fortunate. We launched recently, and we launched on October 20th of last year, 19th, sorry. And after launching, we, a number of folks reached out to us. So we currently have a standing partnership with UNCF, which is the United Negro College Fund, where they provide a number of scholarships to HBCUs, for instance, right? So say after your community college and you want to go to HBCU and study, once you get there, what you have access to is a number of scholarships, which they provide a ton of, for you to do your work. Apart from the HBCUs, right, we have scholarships from all across the country. And so a good instance is this one, right? I don't know. So I'm trying to look to see if there's one where the deadline hasn't passed. Because you are in 12 days, there is this one, but it's very specific. So you have to be mindful of the fact that you have to go into the app, find the things that applies to you in your field of interest, and see if you find anything. Now, if you know of scholarships that are dedicated to, say, community college students, let us know. Or put it on the platform yourself. We'll readily post it, and we'll just make sure everyone has access to them. But we can't do anything about the paperwork. Unfortunately, this is the way these things operate, and it gets worse as you go up. When you get your fellowship, and I have to write a fellowship that was 64 pages. So this is just to tell you that's how that stuff works.
And thank you, Ru, for clarifying that. I would also say that I know from personal experience that when you do have that personal statement, usually the scholarships all ask for a personal statement. So you can kind of tailor it to the specific scholarship. It's not like you really have to write it all over again. You have your, you have your template, and you can just tailor it and highlight different parts of your personal statement. So you don't have to recreate the wheel every time.
Exactly.
So I would say that, definitely go ahead and apply, because it's worth it.
Exactly. And the earlier you do it, the better too. Because one thing I do find is, say you apply for something when you're in high school, over time, you're amassing a different sort of experiences. You're just adding onto your personal statement over time. So you're not sort of reinventing the wheel every single time. So it actually helps you across, throughout your schooling.
And if you're at 4Cs, that's something that I can help you with as a STEM Starter Academy coordinator. And if you're at another community college, you can reach out to your STEM Starter Academy coordinator, and they can help you with that application for scholarships and personal statements that go with it. I want to encourage everyone also to ask questions of our other presenters too. And remember that you have an amazing opportunity here to ask all of your questions, put them in the chat. And that said, I want to ask another question of Rue. Can current health, this is a question in the chat, can current healthcare workers in college have a better chance at STEM or medical internship? So I think, and maybe the person who asked that can specify, but I think what that's asking is, is work experience something that adds to that profile? What is your thought on that, Rue?
Work experience matters a ton. So one thing that you'll find is that these programs are, so the majority, so at least for the one from the NSF, they have a purpose in mind. They're there to train a diverse population of kids across the entire country. So they will not take from only one set of populations. They will take across a diverse set of backgrounds, regardless of what you do. Providing you're applying for the right internship, that fits your interest. Now that said, one thing that I tell people is don't just apply for one thing, right? It's part of it. There's a little bit of like a number game to it. I'm not saying apply to 30. Just like you wouldn't apply to one college, you apply to 5. Just to make certain that you actually get into that summer internship of your dream, providing they all fit the same interest, right? So that's very important. So that's kind of how I would answer this. You'll find some programs that are specific to, say, medical school students, right? If you're thinking about going to medical school, I would tell you, go ahead and apply for that program, no matter what, right? But you will kind of want to diversify the set of stuff you're applying for.
Thanks, Rue. And circling back to the question about high school internships, Julie, do you have something to add there?
Yeah, I just wanted to make it really clear that we cannot accept dual enrollment students for research that happens in the lab. There are other labs at Hui that do partner with some of the local high schools. So if that's something you're really interested in, you should talk to your science teachers at your high schools. And that's just because the OSHA laws are really different for high school students than they are for college students. So I saw that question. I wanted to make it perfectly clear of why we don't include the dual enrollments, especially in a lab like ours. We find high school students can do very little because it's against the law, just from a safety perspective. So I wanted to make that clear, but I encourage you to talk to your high school teachers, because lots of the science fair students and others have partnered with researchers in Woods Hole.
Thanks, Julie. And going back to the CC Rise Hui internship, I had a question about the labs that, Greta, that you mentioned, that one of the requirements for your internship is some previous lab experience. Can you be more specific? What kinds of labs count and what labs don't count? Is there a firm line in the sand, or are you willing to work with people? Can you kind of clarify? And I'm sure that's going to be on the application, but just for the folks that are on this call, it might be helpful to have a discussion around that.
Right. So as part of the application, we ask you to write down what STEM classes you have taken, describing that. What traditionally we've had our students, or what they usually have taken, it can be a biology, general biology, one with a lab, general chemistry 1 with the lab. Then you have some people who have taken the biology 2 with the lab, chemistry 2 with the lab. So it depends on if you come in as a freshman, you haven't had much of a chance to take a science lab. So then we're looking for the basic. If you have been there for 2 years, then you will have students who have taken more. Because, I'm teaching too, so my last 2 semesters, the labs have been virtual labs. So we will definitely take that into account for this round.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, the reasoning behind that was in non-COVID times, this was a very research intense, doing chemistry at the bench, doing biology at the bench and stuff like that. But we look at every application. Greta knows all the professors there at the college too, so she can just ask, what was the lab like? And, this is not a one size fits all kind of thing. So I'd say we're pretty flexible.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. There's a question in the chat. Will we receive a summary of the information? I know for some that joined in late, you cannot see the chat that was there before you joined. So Samantha will again share that slide deck in the chat. And so you will be able to click on the links on each presenter's slide, which those are the application or website links. So that'll be in there just momentarily. Mike, I want to ask you a question about your internship, and thank you, Samantha, for sharing the slides. Mike, will you, you mentioned that really no experience is necessary. It's more an interest in STEM, and so I think that's a very your internship is different than others, because usually you do have to be in a major or some experience or interest. But can you kind of help to clarify the types of majors that might be interested to the students and their majors that might be interested in the internship? Could it be that they've got an interest in robotics and engineering that draws them? Do they have to be a STEM major at all, or can they be interested?
Yeah, it's a good question, Bridget. I would say that if I've left you with one thing today, it's that check out the institutions in the Woods Hole community, and just take a look around, and if scientific interests don't necessarily align with this project, then take a look and see what the institutions all have going on, because there's a lot going on within our community. Bridget, you mentioned engineering and robotics. An active component of this project will also be the policy component, which I'm working on with my colleague Hauke Kite-Powell. And so anyone who's interested in policy and even potentially social studies, governmental issues, things to that effect, I would say that there's also something there for you. Obviously, the scientifically minded and the mathematically minded are all welcome. And I would say that one other component that we're sort of toying with the idea about is potential expression project. I'm also an artist in addition to a scientist, and so the art component as well is very interesting. But it's important that we lower the barrier to get people interested and to get people into science. So I would say in any of those categories that and you might find yourself interested, please reach out. I'll put my email in the chat, and you can always feel free to ask me questions. So
okay, thank
thanks.
you. And Greta, I want to ask you specifically about your program and the application targeting community college students. Can you speak a little bit about that?
So that relates a little bit to what Mike was saying. We want to, coming from a community college, you haven't had a chance to do research in the college yet. So you haven't had a chance to kind of explore what research is about. And what we have found, and I think this might be changing, but in general, these scholarships, internships that are for four-year college students. They're very competitive. And there is one at HUI as well, a summer fellowship. And the students who are selected for these fellowships usually have had research experience as an undergrad. And that is something that you can't help when you're at the community college, because faculty there, they do not do research. So that's why we're targeting specifically community college students, to give them that little, foot in the door where they can start exploring and doing independent research that's separate from what they do in just in a lab setting. And I think, Mike, that's even more inclusive. You want people to explore. So that's what
I was just going to add, Bridget, that we've had 15 students, 13 of them have completed four-year. They're either in their four-year college or completed it, all with STEM majors. 2 more working toward that goal still. But we have students who, when they come to the lab, they're like, I don't know if I want to be a nurse, an engineer, a veterinarian, a teacher. And we're like, okay, right. We don't care. We just, like Mike said, like Greta said, we want you to be into science holistically, right? To try to get the most out of the experience as you can.
I think that's what's so unique about these opportunities that I'm hearing, especially at HUI, is that, the real job involves interdisciplinary work. And so the internship really involves being exposed to all the different members of the team that work on these problems, solving these problems. And to that point, Tucker had put a question in the chat. So what about, opportunities under the umbrella of civil engineering? And Julie, I wonder if you can talk about that and about how, I know on other presentations that you both have given, your slides include you have a team of people on the deck of the ship, and not everybody is a marine biologist or, they are engineers. And so it's part of making the work possible. And I wonder if you can talk about that, Julia and Greta.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best things about being at HUI, is that you get to really be around people from all these different disciplines and backgrounds. But our group works really closely with the Applied Ocean and Physics and Engineering department, because we need to get to the seafloor. We need to build equipment to get to the seafloor. So the picture Greta showed of the student jumping off of Alvin, he was one of the many who came to the lab who had this intersection of interests between biology and engineering. And while he was in the lab, he met some HUI engineers, and it kind of set him on his path. He got his undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering at UMass Dartmouth, and he is working his way up the ranks in the Alvin group. So I know it's one of the reasons I like it, but it also, if you just like, playing with tools and stuff like that, but you don't really know what that might mean, it's a great place to explore those ideas too.
Can I add on to that? And to you, Tucker, I think that right now, the internship that we have at HUI has been in Julie's lab, and we've had like up to 4 interns a year. We are looking to grow the program. So we are, and that again is one of these things that have been affected by COVID, where we are hoping to expand beyond our lab, having mentors in different departments and finding, a connection there too. So run an internship where you still have a cohort of students who are working together, but that then are placed in different labs. And we're looking to model at a summer internship as well as a semester wide. So right now we only have the microbial, internship. We talk about and we connect with other scientists, but there's no possibility right now to work in an engineering lab in our program.
But engineering majors could apply for the internship.
Yeah.
It's just that they won't be in an engineering lab.
Yes.
Yeah, and all this is just COVID delayed, right? I mean, our institution is still mostly closed. So if none of this had happened, I think we'd be offering something else. But for now, we just are on hold.
Yep.
So there is a question that I'd like to answer. It came to me in direct message. So what do I do next to apply and be part of these opportunities? So I'd like to answer that question. So in the chat, we have been putting a little Adobe document link, and it's called Final Internships Slides 2, and if you could see the rest of it, it would say 2021. And it says click to download. So click on that document and it will download the PowerPoint presentation that's been saved as a PDF. And in that presentation, all of the links that were shown during the various presentations should still be live links that you can click on, and it will take you to those applications. So you can apply to them. And if you need help, Anne Marie and myself are here to help you put that application together. So don't hesitate to reach out. If you're a 4C student, reach out to me or Anne Marie. And if you are at another community college, you will have a STEM Starter Academy coordinator who will also be available to help you. So I encourage you to ask questions if you're not sure what to do once you get that application, and email me. I'm going to put my email again right here in the chat. If you cannot download that PowerPoint, I could email it to you directly.
Can I mention one more thing, Bridget?
Yes,
Also,
yes.
if you are doing an internship for credit at the college, you do need to see me to do paperwork as well, okay? So there's a couple different steps, but if you are looking to receive college credit at Cape Cod Community College, please reach out to me. And I did put my email in the chat as well. Thanks.
Thanks, Anne Marie. So if I don't see any more questions in the chat, and I do have a few more events that I'd like to make you aware of. Does anyone have any further questions before we move on to our closing last slide? Okay, I don't see any hands raised or questions, anything. Okay, so yes, and if you cannot download the PowerPoint, I see a message in the chat, direct message. I'm going to email you, Jimmy, don't worry. So I want to tell you about the upcoming events that STEM Starter Academy is hosting at 4Cs. They're all virtual events, but I'd like to encourage you to join us in the flyer that you will receive as part of this presentation. These links should be live links where it says register here. So on Thursday, we're going over our mentoring platform. This is where 4C students can connect with a STEM mentor from the community. These are STEM professionals who are volunteering their time to help you with all sorts of career and educational pathway activities and career exploration. Next week, we're hosting a speaker panel of women in biotech. That's going to be fantastic. I encourage you to join that and learn more. On the 17th, we are going to be doing mock interviews. We're going to talk about how do you nail a STEM interview? What makes you successful in a STEM interview? And we're going to have STEM hiring HR professionals helping us with mock interviews. And on the 18th, we are going to go over scholarships, because for us at 4Cs, our 4Cs Foundation and our Cape Cod Foundation open up their scholarship season a little bit late. So the scholarships that REU is talking about on his platform are really nationwide scholarships. We're going to go over the local scholarships that are really earmarked for 4Cs students. And so be sure to join us for that. If you would like to, if any of the presenters would like to keep putting contact info in the chat, you're welcome to. I want to thank all of our presenters. This has been fantastic. I really, really appreciate you joining us and sharing these opportunities for our students. Thank you, students, for showing up. I encourage you to apply. Do not be shy. Do not hesitate. Email me and Anne Marie, and we can help you. All right. And so with that, I thank you all